Obviously, a big week for us playing our rival. Gonna be a sold out crowd. Weather's supposed to be great, so we got to have a great week of preparation. Got some new guys going to have to step up, with some of the injuries we had in the past game. So it's going to be a big week for some of those guys as well.
So, Rich, let's start with the injuries.
Mhm.
What I mean, you know what's happening, but what's the long-term prognosis for both of them? And then, who's next in line? How do you
Yeah,
replace that
Jaden,
guy?
I think his injury was the same he had before, which is really unfortunate with his foot. And so he'll get it fixed again and expect a full recovery from that. And as I mentioned, he was one of the hardest workers every practice. Like, he was getting the most miles in. So yes, that's where you feel bad for the guys. And then Jaheim got hurt on that. It was a penalty, and it was unfortunate because he had worked really hard too to come back and be ready to play. So, but like I told those guys, we've got great medical help. They'll come back bigger and better and stronger than ever. And unfortunately, somebody else is going to have to take their place for this year. So we've got a lot of candidates, just a lot of them. None of them have played a lot, But we have some guys at wide out. Preston Fox has played some. And then we got some other guys we brought in. They're going to get an opportunity to play as well. And then running back, we're going to try to figure that out during this week.
Katzer, what's his status?
Yeah, Katzer's getting closer to coming back. I'm hoping he'll be able to practice this week, but we're not sure if he'll be full go today or tomorrow. But the other guys, Clay Ash has been there, and Sincere Bowers is going to get an opportunity. Ty Edwards. Dior Hubbard's now going to get a chance to do something as well.
You mentioned Clay Ash. What do you think of when he has been in this year? How has he looked so far?
Yeah, he's played pretty well.
Bit.
Yeah, Clay's played pretty well. He's a tough competitor. He's done a good job of learning our stuff, and so I've been really pleased. I mean, he's earned the right to play some. Obviously, now they're getting pushed into a bigger role with the starter Jaheim being out, but they'll be okay.
Jamori, is anything new with that? Can you announce?
No, it's I think he's going to be. My understanding, he's going to be cleared, but I thought he'd be cleared for this weekend. But there's still a question about that.
You played in backyard brawls. You've coached in a bunch of them. Can you just talk about the significance of this rivalry?
Yeah, I think it's one of the greatest rivalry in sports. In all of our sports against Pitt. Obviously, the location between the two are close. There's a lot of intensity with it. There's never seems to be any love lost between the fan bases, and it's always, to me, the biggest game on your schedule when you're at West Virginia. I don't know if Pitt would tell you that. That's what they think, but I know from our standpoint and for our fan standpoint, Pitt's the biggest game we play.
How do you explain that to 81 new guys?
Yeah, you're going to talk to you. You'd hope they feel it. I think not just this week, but probably since they've been here. Everybody will talk about, hey, how about the Pitt game? And so I'm sure they've heard it. I'm going to obviously mention it, but we're going to do our process and practice and everything the same that we always do. That doesn't change. But I think they will probably see an added intensity if that's the case. I mean, I don't know. We're pretty intense anyway, but they'll understand the importance of it, and certainly they'll see it on Saturday.
Dior Hubbard. What does he bring to the table?
Well, he's got some speed, and he's got good ability. I think he was still learning a little bit. He's been banged up somewhat in the beginning of camp, which set him back a little bit. But like I said, I don't want to, somebody say, well, you're going to be running back by committee. I don't know if that gives those guys enough. I mean, obviously you lose a great player, but we don't look at it like as a committee of guys. I think it's going to look like, we'll give some guys opportunities and see who does the best.
You coached Michigan State, Ohio State, Arizona State. You've seen rivalries. What separates this one from those, are they each as intense but in a different way?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's funny because every place has a rivalry. At Arizona, it was the in-state thing, and Michigan, Ohio State, obviously that one. But I've told people everywhere I've been that I've been in a bunch of rivalries. There's none that's more intense than this, and I think I don't know if it's it's because the location is close or because there's been so many heated games in all sports against each other. And it's a different, it's like you can look at West Virginia. We're smaller towns, smaller cities, and Pittsburgh's the big city kind of thing. And so there's a lot of parallels that I think West Virginia, people that don't, and I think what's happened is maybe it's not as known nationally as a rivalry as probably what it should be. As I would tell folks, even when I was at Michigan, that, hey, I know the Michigan-Ohio State rivalry is big, but, it's probably get more intense than West Virginia Pitt, and every school probably has that one school that they consider that kind of rivalry with, and Pitt's always been ours.
You know Barduzzi at all? Have you ever met him?
Yeah, oh yeah, we go way back. I think me when he was at Cincinnati, we were playing when he was with Cincinnati. We were here. He was a D coordinator there, and throughout the years, so I've gotten to know him, over the years.
Is there any extra on this game because the rivalry's not going to be renewed until 2029? There is a break here. You won't get a receipt, for example, next year.
Yeah, I don't know. I really am thinking too much about that in the future. I know someone asked me earlier, could you see it in the future being played every year, maybe after 29 and 30? And I said, yeah, that would. I mean, obviously, that would be great for everybody. If you could, but the schedules are so. I think everything right now in college football, I think, is a little bit in flux because who knows what's going to happen in the next couple of years, conference-wise, what have you. But
Does that bring this game to a different level, though?
no, I don't know if you can bring it to. It's always it's already at the highest level you could be at.
Rich, you said this was the biggest game you played, but it's also a really big recruiting weekend. How do you balance recruiting while preparing for this big game?
Yeah, you're right. We got a bunch of commits coming to visit. We got a bunch of guys that we like that are coming here. It's our biggest recruiting weekend of the season, and it's we're all going to be pretty busy. Obviously, I'm going to have the opportunity to see and talk to them on Saturday. We got, I think, one official visit, and the rest are unofficial. But I'll get a chance to talk to them before the game and warm-ups, and then get a chance to say hello to them after the game as well. But it is a huge recruiting weekend for us.
Your memories of this rivalry as a player when you first stepped on, do you remember those games?
Yeah, I think my first time playing them, I think it might have been at home, and I wasn't playing as a freshman. My first time playing them was up in their old Pitt, and I think Dan Marino was the quarterback. And I think I got in the game. I got in the game in the first quarter, and I'm thinking, he's probably going to throw deep right over my head at free safety, and I must have lined up like 25 yards deep or something. So they might have thrown a 20-yard square in front of me, but they didn't throw a post behind me. I can remember that. So I was like, Dan Marino's going to try to throw one right over my head. So I remember little pieces of that. But, I understood it because I'm from West Virginia. I understood the rivalry, so I knew how important it was. But everybody in the program, you could feel that week was different,
You're facing another good quarterback this week in Eli Holstein. Is there anything that you saw from your defense that they might need to do differently, maybe pressure-wise on the quarterback, because he is known to sometimes in pressure force things down the field?
Well, he's a great player. I think he's an NFL guy. He can make all the throws. He's one of the top quarterback prospects in the country coming out, and I don't know if he's lost a game as a starter. He's done really. I mean, he's off to a great start. But last week was different because Parker Navarro was such a unique guy that he would make, jump passes and make you miss and scramble around and get first downs and did a bunch of things. So the plan for him and the plan for everybody else is a little bit different probably. So I think Zach's done a good job. Last week we missed a few opportunities to let them get some first downs, some key plays. This week we can't let that happen. He can move a little bit. Eli can move around a little bit. He's not just a stationary target, but they're going to throw it all over the place if we don't get pressure or if we don't cover well. Yeah, he's day to day right now. Probably won't do anything today. Hopefully, he could do some stuff tomorrow. That's what we're kind of waiting on.
After the Alabama series was canceled, do you know if West Virginia reached out to Pitt about trying to get the backyard brawl scheduled again before 29?
All I know, when the Alabama thing happened, it was that very rarely do you can find another Power 4 team that had the same opening and fit the schedule. So I think it was Virginia that we're playing now. I'm not sure. You guys would know. But anyway, yeah, it was, yeah, we were, I know our folks did a good job finding that game, for them to replace Alabama.
Yesterday, I was at Pitt's press conference. Pat Narduzzi was asked about that, and he said he didn't want to speak for Pitt's athletic director, but he thought that that Pitt had reached out to West Virginia when those scheduling, those openings came up on the schedule, and then basically said, you know, maybe he was being sarcastic, but maybe they didn't want to play us. I don't know. But can you speak to sort of your desire for continuing the rivalry and whether you feel that y'all have made attempts to keep this game on?
Yeah, I think we're playing again in 29, and then we'll see what happens after that. That's, you know, like I said, it would be great after 20. When that starts back up again after 29, if it fits in the schedule, that would be great for that to continue then.
Rich, what does Nico, after watching tape, what does Nico still need to work on?
Well, he's like everybody else. He's still learning. Nico's a great competitor. I love the way he competes. It's important to him, and you know but he's like everybody else. He's a freshman in the system, you know. So it's still going to be a little bit of a process, and I got to remember that because I appreciate all he's the way he's bought in and he's competing. And he's doing everything he can, and then Nico wants to be great, and I know that we got to help him in certain spots as well. But the quarterback position is very unique here. I've never had this many guys that were kind of in the mix and had different skill sets, and so I don't want to say we're still figuring out because we had some time to figure out, but you get a lot of answers in games. I'm like, hey, this guy's really good at this, but maybe we need this guy to do this better, and so we're figuring that out. I'm not I guess typical. Hey, you're just going to play one quarterback, or just going to play that quarterback. You know, we like to give everybody opportunities and see what happens.
You mentioned Nico there. How do you think Jalen played when he did come in against Ohio?
Yeah.
And then I have to ask again: are you able to name a starter for the Pitt game now?
No, I'm not naming anything because we got a long week of doing practice and evaluating our guys. I thought Jalen, we were looking for a little spark, and he made the best play he had. We got called back because of a penalty, and it was probably a good call. So he got a couple series there, but I think he's still in the mix, and as is some of those other guys. We'll see.
Rich, how do you go about defending a back like Desmond Reed?
Yeah, he's. I loved him when he was coming out of Western Carolina, what it was a few years ago. We tried to recruit him, and I knew then. I said, this guy's an explosive player. You know, he catches the ball. He does everything. He's a great return guy. So I knew it at the time that he was a really good player, and he's continued to get even better the last couple of years.
Offensive line?
Rich,
Offensive line.
Yeah, what'd you just think of the offense?
Ours.
Yes.
Greg, it did okay. Assignment-wise, they're pretty solid. There were times that we did a little movement, but probably didn't get as much push at times like we wanted. But that wasn't, that was some of it was how they were playing us. So I think they're coming along okay. It's a very conscientious group. They're really hard workers. I think they're going. Again, I got to keep reminding myself that it's the first time for all those guys starting and playing. So they're like rookies there, but they're gonna keep getting better.
gotta ask, any lingering effects from the last time you played them, 17 years ago? Does it affect this game at all in your mind?
That's a fair question, Bob. I don't. These guys, like some of these guys weren't born probably. That's how long ago that was. And for me, there really isn't. I think even if it was 2 or 3 years afterwards, I'd probably be a little bit more in my mind. But that's a lifetime ago, And is it a sore spot when it's brought up? Yeah. So thanks for that, Bob. But no, it is. It was the worst moment of my professional career from a game standpoint, and I tried to move past it a long time ago. So, but from that regard, it'd be good to get a win. And it's not going to ease the pain from that. It'll still always be there, but that's part of life.
Rich,
Jacksonville State just didn't have a rivalry like the ones that you're used to in your schedules. Arizona, like you said, Michigan, like you said. And maybe I'm wrong. Did it feel different, like when you picked up a schedule at the start of the year and said, where's that hatred? Where's that, the one game that everybody circles?
Not really. I think, again, now the rivalry games, if you're saying they're not more important than some of the others, that's not true. They are. But I think the way I've always approached it, like if they're keeping score, I mean, it's really, really important. So it's hard to do more than your best. You know what I mean? You do the best you can. And every game you try to do the best you can. It's not like, I'm going to do the best I can because it's Pitt. It's that way every week. So I don't look at that from that standpoint any differently.
What do you see out of Pitt's Kyle Lewis? He's supposed to be one of the best linebackers in the country.
Yeah, I tell you what, that's the most. And again, I hadn't, watched the game from last year, our game against them last year, and obviously the first two games of this year. They're extremely athletic. Of all the teams I've seen, they purposely defensively. I mean, their guys up front can all run. Their linebackers can run. They got big, tall corners that press you and try to take away the easy stuff. So I knew they felt pretty good coming into the season with the experience they have coming back and all that. And they've showed it in the first two games they've played. And they're going to play. We know how hard they're going to play. So a lot of it this week is getting us right as best we can. And then Saturday, they got to get our best shot. For us to win the game, we got to give them our best version, which we haven't done yet. So I guess that's a good thing. That's still out there for us to do.
Is it helpful after a week like last week to have your arch rival on the schedule the next week?
I don't know. I would like to think no matter what happened before or what happens after, the focus on this week is going to be kind of laser focused. So, but there certainly should be, our guys that, this is not going to be a hard game to motivate for. I mean, if you have to motivate guys for Pitt, then there's something wrong, So that's the way I see it.
What's your message to your guys just in regards to them channeling emotions in such a rivalry game like this is?
Yeah, I hope they have emotions for it, but don't be stupid, as far as, don't cost your team from, having a foolish penalty or something like that. And, part of with so many new guys, and again, there's not a lot of guys that have grown up in this program. There will be the next 3 or 4 years, there'll be guys that grown up in this program, but right now we don't have as many. So I've got to make sure that they understand the intensity of it, and I think they'll feel it all week, and they'll see it for sure on Saturday.
You guys have got here late from injunction or whatever. How hard is it for them to catch up? Are they slowly getting there?
Yeah, I think every week has been like a week of camp that they got through, and so those guys, all three of those guys, they're I think are getting more and more into the mix of playing more than just special teams.
Rich, you mentioned Clay and Dior. What have you seen out of Sincere?
Yeah, Sincere's one of the fastest guys on the team. Again, still learning everything that we're doing, but I think he's got a chance to play a lot of football. He's played a little bit, but I think every week he gets a little bit more comfortable. He's a good football player.
Last night on your radio show, you mentioned how when you started out 0-3 last year at Jack State and you had a bunch of new guys on your team, it took a while to almost learn them. Do you feel as if that's getting better and it's day by day you're slowly starting to find different things with these guys?
Yeah, it needs to, I knew it coming in, like, there wasn't a lot of, people could, I wish we had more players coming back. You know what I mean? I wish we had 14 starters coming back and we could have paid to keep them and do all those things, because there were some good players but there was a lot of guys that graduated, and there was a handful that left that we didn't want to leave, but there was other handful that probably looking for a different opportunity. That we won't have that many new ones every year. Going forward, like I mentioned the other day, we'll have more high school guys than transfer guys, and guys will develop in the program, and we'll retain them, and it'll all be good. So the first year was always going to be the different challenge from that standpoint. But the challenge is a challenge. We've got to embrace it and accept it, and I think our guys have for from a team standpoint. But you have to work on it harder, from a culture standpoint. So I knew that from day one that, hey, you could say, well, it's going to be hard to establish the culture that you want with this many new guys coming in or transfers coming in. And I said, we got to do it. We got to do it. As painful it is, we got to establish it and then go from there.
Do you think there's any impact on this game in particular? Because despite Pitt and West Virginia being similar programs, usually in similar boats, conference-wise, financial-wise, they're almost their whole team's back, and you're a totally different ball of wax than what West Virginia was last year. Is that an advantage, a disadvantage? Does that have any impact on this, do you think?
Well, every year is different now, right? Every year is a whole new year. I can't speak for them, but for us, this is our first Pitt game together. So I'm anxious to see how our guys work this week. I don't have a lot of meetings and talk about a whole lot of philosophical stuff, believe it or not. But, I'll have one today and it'll be a brief one, but it'll be to the point, and I'll mention it tomorrow and again the next couple of days about, hey, I don't care if you've got 1 year or you've been here 3 years or whatever the case may be, this is Pitt week. It's got to be different in your preparation and everything like that, and I'm expecting them to respond.
Coach, in regards to just maximizing your offensive possessions in this game, how important of a focus will that be throughout preparation leading into Saturday?
Well, we just got to get more first downs. I mean, if you don't want them to score and throw the ball all over the place and Desmond go off on the run plays, whatever the case may be, you got to keep possession of the ball, get first downs. That's going to be the key for us. We got to get first downs and keep possession of the ball.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thanks, guys.